Hey everybody, Oots here, and today I am doing a video for you guys. Right now I'm in my backyard, and it's a beautiful sunny day, so that's why I'm in my backyard. So if the audio quality is not that good, that's why. I still have my good mic and stuff, but there might be some background noise of nature and things like that, and I also have, I have neighbors on both sides of me, and I might be like little a little self-conscious about recording a Guild Wars 2 video in my outside. So if someone comes outside, I might start like whispering. But yeah, so if that happens, you'll probably figure that out. But yeah, no, I wanted to do a little video about celestial gear in Guild Wars 2. Not how to get it, not how to do any of that stuff, because I don't care about that stuff. I just buy it on the trading post. But I wanted to talk about celestial gear because, yeah, you probably already know they updated it to now also include concentration and expertise as the stats it gets. I've always wanted that to be done because, if it's trying to give you all stats, it's got to give you all stats, right? And now it finally does, and it's glorious. It's glorious. So in case you didn't know, Celestial Armor is a stat combination that gives you one of everything, basically. So instead of like picking 3 different stat types and concentrating on those, or 4 different stat types and concentrating on those, it does a little bit of everything. And now it does concentration expertise, and what that means is with exotic or ascended celestial armor, you get approximately 45% boon duration and 45% condition duration, in addition to all the things you used to get with celestial armor now. And that's nothing to laugh at, because that's a ton. That's a ton of boon and condition duration. So what does that mean for celestial armor? I guess the point of this video is to kind of go over whether or not celestial armor is a balanced stat combination in Guild Wars 2 now. And I think before even diving into it, I'm going to go ahead and say the answer to that question is, yeah, sure, why not? Why not? It's, yeah, it is. Even though, so I think the way I'll go through this is like try to explain the reasons why it shouldn't be it is not balanced, it's overpowered, and then kind of go over why it doesn't matter that it's overpowered in those ways. So let's begin. So here we are over on guildwars2skills.net, my favorite website, and on the build editor. And let's just pick any profession. Let's go with warrior, let's say. And let's go into the gear. And any weapon. Let's do a 2-handed weapon so we don't have to change too much. So let's fill up the celestial gear template for everything. Let's just give everything ascended celestial gear. Copy all, copy all. So we're not going to do the food, we're not going to give the runes or anything, we're just going to go just the base stats. And what does that give us? It gives us 639 of every stat, and 42.6% 42.6% Condi and boon duration. And yeah, if you give yourself a celestial food, that brings it up to 45. But let's not do that. So that's a lot. I mean, it's clearly less than the max stats you could get from other type of gear types in one category. But it's a lot of stats. It's an insane amount of stats. It's 639 times 9 things. So if we go to, like, at the beginning of the game, before all this stuff came into the game, there was like the go-to, you had Berserker, right? You had Berserker. People still run Berserker for things. Let's copy that all down. Copy that all down. And that only gives 960, 960, and 1382. And then if you have a 4-stat combination one, it's like 1170, 600 and something, 600 and something, 1170. What does that boil down to? Let's take a look at an Excel sheet. Fun, guys, right? Fun. So if we look here at the Excel sheet, we got Celestial coming in with 639 on everything. That gives you a total of 5,751 stat points. What does that mean exactly? I mean, it's a little ambiguous because each stat point is worth a certain amount of whatever it is it's giving. So like 639 power is very different from 639 ferocity, because ferocity is literally just the number you have here, 639 divided by 15, I think it is, and that's how much extra, like an actual percent critical damage you get from it. So it's very easy to understand what you're getting here. Same thing with precision. It's like divided by 21, that's how many extra crit chance you get. But power is kind of like wishy-washy, because you start off with 1,000, and then each skill has their own like internal calculation on how much of the power you use. So this stat is a little wishy-washy how much you're actually getting from that. Same thing with Condi damage. Expertise is very straightforward, divided by 15. Concentration and healing's also wishy-washy. Anyway, you get the idea. It's giving you so many stats, some of it's wishy-washy. But then you get the Zerk, and you get only 3,302 instead of 5,751. That's like so much less, right? And then somebody else is going to go and say, yeah, but that's an all in power, right? It's all in power, so your offense it's all going towards offense. That's 3,302 in offense when you're wasting so much in defense with Celestial. True. But over here, look at that. In Celestial, you're getting nearly the same amount just in offensive stats. Power, precision, ferocity, condition damage, and expertise. Except, I'm going back and forth here. This is like the worst video ever. Except, yes, this is all offensive stats. But, again, it's a little wishy-washy because some of it is Condi stuff, some of it's power stuff. Oh, my dog wants to be let back inside, so I'm going to go do that really quick. Okay, my dog's back inside. Everything's right with the world again. Right, where was I? Right, so this, yes, it's 3,200 offensive stats. However, you know, it's separated between power and Condi. So, yes, this is a ton more stats than Berserker, but Berserker's still going to have its place because it's pure power damage, right? Same thing with Minstrel. Although there isn't many places Minstrel is fully used, although World vs. World might be. Minstrel is all defensive stats, so it's 3,600 defensive stats, and that's all in defense. So yeah, it does beat out the defense of Celestial by, you know, 50 extra percent or something like that. So it has its places as well. Now, but what happens when you look at all the other stat combinations? Like Grievers, for example. Grievers is all offense, but it's offense divided into power and condition damage, right? So yeah, you're getting more power than this one. You're getting less precision than this one, less ferocity than this one, and a little bit more Condi. So yeah, of course, this is going to be better for a offensive build than Celestial, but if you look at the stats, it's not that much better. It's like, what is that? Less than 20% better? So it's a little bit better, but not like insanely better than Celestial. Something like Zealot's armor, which separates stuff into power and defensive things. We get a little bit of concentration there. It's even more obvious that Celestial is just a better choice unless you're doing for very specific builds. A better choice overall because, yeah, you're getting more offense and you're getting more defense. And then finally you get to something like Rampager, which is, I don't think you're going to use it ever again, because you get 3,320 stats, which is just a tiny bit more than Celestial in offense. And this is divided between power and condition damage as well. And it's like way worse than Gravers in that case, because yeah, you're getting a ton of precision, but the power is not that much higher than Celestial, and the condition damage is not that much higher than Celestial, and you're not getting any of the defensive stats, and you're not getting any ferocity or expertise. So yeah, what this, just going by the numbers, you kind of look at it and you're like, wow, Celestial has so many more stats. Why would you ever take, well, I still think why would you ever take Rampagers over it? Fine. But why would you ever take some of these other stats that people use all the time over it? Well, the answer is there are very good reasons. So if you're using a build that has 0 condition damage in it, you probably don't want to use a gear set that adds condition damage and expertise to you, because it's wasted stats. So you would use Zerkers or even Zealots if you wanted to, because you wanted some concentration. Or was it concentration or healing that Zealots has? Yeah, I think it's healing. So let's just change that up. But yeah, so there's that. Also, there's the possibility, I mean, some people might say you would want something like Trailblazers instead of Celestial, because it does, good defense and healing, and it specializes in Condi and expertise. So if you're running a pure Condi build, you would want this instead of Celestial. But even then, that's not really quite true, because with Trailblazers, yes, you're going directly into Condi, but there are no builds in the world that couldn't benefit from having additional power in them, even though they're Condi builds, because Condi is 90%, if not 100% of the time, conditions that are tacked onto skills that already do damage. So I would say Trailblazer is fantastic for Condi builds, but Celestial might be better. However, the reason why I say Celestial is balanced, even though on paper it looks like Celestial should just make you not choose so many other stat combinations, especially Rampagers. I'm still saying, you know what, I'm just going to delete Rampagers because it's an eyesore. But the reason why Celestial isn't still balanced, even though it's so much better stat-wise and everything else, is because of where you can use it. Okay, so where can you use Celestial and where can't you? Well, let's think about it for a sec. General PvE. Obviously, you can use Celestial. In fact, I might just start buying Celestial for all of my classes, because who cares, right? It's General PvE. The worst thing that you could do in General PvE is on big boss fights or whatever, just do no damage and give no support to anybody. But with Celestial, you could still pretty much do a decent amount of damage, and you could definitely do a ton of support because of that boon duration and healing that you get from it. So Celestial is not bad in General PvE. Where else? Dungeons, obviously. I mean, you don't have to be a master, dungeon master to to do dungeons. So yeah, obviously you could transfer your General PvE stuff over to dungeons. Fractals. Yeah, I think you could use it in Fractals. I mean, again, Fractals aren't the hardest things in the world. Maybe there's going to be some tryhards who are going to be like, no, it has to be, we have to bring raid builds into it, or else we're losing precious seconds. But no, I would say Fractals Celestial works just fine. World versus world. Yes, absolutely. Celestial is God in roaming world versus world. It's also quite good. I mean, it works fine for Zergs, as long as you're not like, min-maxing again, being the in some very, very tight grouping Zerg fights that you like to do with some high-end world versus world groups. Even then, I think it might be useful. But raids. Raids. Can you use Celestial... Oh, there's my dog. Can you use Celestial armor in raids? Well, let's say you're using an Elementalist or a Firebrand who can really take advantage of the Celestial gear set and the hybrid nature of what it gives. Yeah, I think... Well, not yeah. I think you could do a very decent amount of DPS with them. So you could probably, like, you know, reach, if not almost reach, 30k DPS with Celestial gear. And then on top of that, it definitely helps with some of the drawbacks, let's say, of an Elementalist, having so little health. And some of the drawbacks, well, it's not really a drawback of a Firebrand as well. It doesn't have very much health either. It really, you know, rounds you out, gives you a good amount of vitality, good survivability, gives you that boon duration for any support you're giving to your friends, especially for a Firebrand. I mean, you could just use that Celestial boon duration for a quickness Firebrand if you wanted to. But what's the problem with it? The problem with Celestial is that only certain builds are able to push that kind of DPS with the hybridization stat combination here. And on top of that, it gives you toughness. And that is huge unfortunate. So on toughness, if you don't know, in raids, many bosses in raids use toughness to determine who they attack in a party to be the tank. So, and generally your tanks, you have a tank usually as a Mesmer because they have a lot of ways of getting invulnerable and not able to get hit by things. So they take not too much toughness in their build and are able to get away with it and do a lot of damage still because they are just invulnerable every time the boss wants to hit them. If you take too much toughness, like you would with a Celestial armor combination, you become the tank in a usual raid group, and you will probably not survive the same way a Mesmer could survive. Maybe as a Guardian you could do it with your Aegises, but probably not. So that is why Celestial gear is not so great for raids, and I do not recommend it. Another question is, what builds can use it? The answer is a lot of builds can use it. Unless you're running like a pure power build or a pure condition build, I would say any build can use Celestial armor. And I think that's like why I said I'm probably going to get a set for all of my characters, because it's really just a great way to test new builds, you know? Like, you could just test a bunch of new builds with just Celestial armor, see if it kind of works, and then maybe alter things from there to see if you want to go more specialized gear-wise in that build. So why do I say Celestial is balanced, kind of, sort of, when it could be used almost everywhere, except for raids maybe? It could be used with basically any build, almost. And it's just slightly better than everything because of how many stats you get. Well, because where are you using it? Everywhere except for raids and PvP, right? Because the stat combination doesn't exist in PvP. And raids and PvP are the only... Well, World vs. World kind of also, but World vs. World is its own beast where everything's overpowered. And yeah, you're going to be running Celestial, but that's fine. But yeah, raids and PvP are the only places where people really care if something is overpowered or not. And if you're just relegating Celestial to the only places where it's not, where people don't actually care that it's overpowered, then it's not overpowered, right? Maybe that's not the best logic in the world, but it's my logic. You might not agree with me. That's fair. It's kind of funny logic, but it's my current logic on the situation. And frankly, I just love it so much that I don't want it to be touched because I like it so much. Now, that said, should some stat combinations perhaps be buffed in some way because Celestial is so much better than them in PvE maybe, or some other game modes. Perhaps. The problem is there's a very clear definition of how they have things set up currently. So you have a certain amount of stats that applies to all 3 stat combination types. So like Berserker, you got your assassins. So in that case, there's one that's they put a lot of points in, and then there's 2 secondary stats that had slightly less points. In a 4-stat combination one, they have 2 that are the higher ones and 2 that are the secondary ones. And across the board, for everything except for Celestial, whether it's 3 or 4 stat combinations, it's all the same numbers, all for the 3s, and then the same numbers all for the 4s. So yeah, I don't think they're going to change something like Berserkers or Grievers or some other stat combinations that are used for raiding quite often, because raids and the things people do in raids is balanced around those stat combinations currently. So they can't really boost those, I don't think. And I don't think they should boost those. The things that aren't used very often, like, let's say, Rampagers, or some other stat combinations that don't get the same kind of love that others do, maybe they do get boosted. However, how could they if without, like, diverting from the mentality they have of all the stats being across the board being the same for a 3 or a 4 stat combination armor? I don't know, and I don't know they should. That's kind of like the only reasoning I could give to why they might want to reduce the effectiveness of Celestial armor, because there's no reason to pick some of these other, like Rampagers, etc., stat combinations over it in any situation. But I feel like if Celestial didn't exist, would anybody pick Rampagers in the first place? I can't say that anybody would. So do they get rid of Rampagers altogether? I don't know. You know? Anyway, so that's my feelings on Celestial armor. I hope this was a very boring video for everyone. I could tell you one thing, that I've been spending a lot of time with Celestial armor. I bought it for, like, I want to say 6 out of 9 of my characters so far. Professions, I mean. And I've basically found that anything I throw at it, it kind of works with. Like, obviously, Elementalist, almost everything you do with Celestial armor works. With Guardian, almost everything you do with Celestial armor works. Same thing with Revenant, almost anything you do with Celestial armor works. What else? Oh yeah, some surprises. I was doing stuff with a Thief with Celestial armor, and it kind of worked. I, like, did a Condi-ish, power-ish Deadeye that had, because it has expertise, I was trying out that my old spamming rifle 2 when you're kneeled, so that you could spam immobilize, and you just, with all that expertise you get, you just stack immobilize out the wazoo. It's quite nice. And also poison and stuff like that. So I don't know, Celestial is good. That's basically all I wanted to say in this. I've been trying to put together or find the perfect Celestial build. I guess I'll give you the rules that I have for it now, so maybe you guys could all think of what I could do for that. The rules are this. It has to, in some way, use condition damage and power damage non-superficially. It has to make use of its healing power non-superficially. It has to make use of its boon duration non-superficially. It should get as much might as possible, because might provides, again, more condition damage and power damage. It should try to put as much vulnerability on the target, because that also increases damage to the target for both Condi and and power. What are my other rules? I'm gonna forget now, but it's something along those lines. So let me know if you guys have any ideas. Elementalist was having a good job doing that. Obviously, like I said, Guardian was doing a good job with that as well. Funnily enough, Thief had some good things with that, but I wouldn't say that it's a contender yet. But yeah, obviously Revenant as well. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. What would be your perfect Celestial build that uses all those things as much as possible and tries to be as well-rounded as possible? And let me know in the comments. And I'm going to keep working on it because I love Celestial, and you should too. Goodbye.